Welcome back to Business Book Breakdowns.
Today, we're diving into The Power of Going All In by Brandon Bornancin.
Oh, yeah?
And, looks like from your notes, you're really interested in upping your leadership game.
Uh-huh.
And Bornancin has some pretty interesting and maybe even controversial ideas about leadership,
Yeah.
like ditching the 40-hour work week.
Becoming a pressure magnet for your team.
Right.
And even measuring your success by how many people thank you for their wins.
Definitely a book that challenges how we think about leadership.
Yeah.
And it's packed with advice you can actually use. So let's unpack some of the most impactful strategies for becoming an all-in leader.
Okay, so first, what is all-in leadership?
From your notes, it looks like Bornancin sees it as more than just a management style. It's
Yeah.
like a whole mindset and way of life.
Exactly.
It's about unwavering commitment, a drive to constantly grow, and really investing in your team's success. Bornancin talks about key characteristics of an all-in leader, things like positivity, being coachable, and having a strong work ethic.
And these aren't just buzzwords. They're really the foundation for creating a high-performing team,
So it almost sounds like training for a championship.
where everyone is dedicated to constantly improving and supporting each other.
That's a great analogy.
And, that leads into another point Bornancin makes. The problem with the word boss. He really wants to shift the power dynamic away from top-down authority.
Yeah, he actually says that the best leaders are the opposite of bad bosses.
Leaders empower while bosses just dictate.
Right?
And that creates such a different environment.
Absolutely.
It's about creating respect, collaboration, and making everyone feel valued, not just ordered around.
I can definitely relate to that.
I've worked for both bosses and true leaders,
Yeah.
and the experiences were night and day.
Working for a boss felt stifling, like I was constantly being watched.
But working with a leader felt inspiring.
I felt supported, challenged, and motivated to do my best.
That's exactly what all-in leadership is about. And that brings us to some of the more unexpected advice in the book.
Yes.
These are the ideas that really got me thinking.
Like measuring your success by how many people thank you for their success
Right.
seems counterintuitive, but there's a powerful logic to it.
It's about focusing on the collective wins.
You're prioritizing the growth of your team, recognizing that their success is ultimately your success.
And how about becoming a pressure magnet for your team?
Isn't a little pressure good for motivation?
Bornancin argues that by shielding your team from pressure, you actually free them to perform better.
They can focus on the task at hand without feeling overwhelmed.
That makes sense.
It creates psychological safety, so people feel comfortable taking risks.
But what about ditching the 40-hour work week?
That seems radical.
It's not about working less.
It's about focusing on results and rewarding efficiency.
Okay.
If someone can get their work done in less than 8 hours, why hold them back?
So you're shifting the focus from face time to actual output. It's a different way of thinking about work.
Yeah, and that's what makes this book so interesting.
He challenges us to rethink how we lead.
And to consider new ways to succeed.
Definitely.
Okay, so speaking of new ways,
Bornancin offers a ton of immediately applicable tips.
let's get into those.
Sounds good.
Are you ready for some aha moments?
Absolutely.
I love those.
And hey, if you're enjoying these business book breakdowns,
We'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button.
leave a comment and subscribe to the channel.
Helps us reach more people.
And keep bringing you these insights.
And if you think you want to go all in on this book,
You can buy it using the link in the description.
okay, back to those actionable tips.
One that stands out is the hell yes or hell no rule for hiring.
I've heard of that.
It's about only hiring people you're really enthusiastic about, right?
Exactly.
Saves you so much time and heartache later on.
If you're not a resounding yes about a candidate, move on.
Don't settle.
You're trusting your gut that the right people make all the difference.
What else does Bornancin recommend?
He also talks about the triangle balance:
Okay.
directive, supportive, and collaborative leadership.
It's not about choosing just one style.
It's about finding the right balance for each situation.
So some situations need clear direction.
While others need a more supportive or collaborative approach,
Right.
you have to adapt to the needs of your team.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about this power of the one thing?
Sounds interesting.
Instead of trying to improve everything at once.
Identify that one area that will make the biggest impact.
And focus your energy there.
So maybe it's communication skills or streamlining a process.
You're finding the right lever to move the needle.
Exactly.
And this all leads to continuous growth.
Another important aspect of all-in leadership.
Bornancin seems to emphasize feedback.
Learning. development.
He says stagnation is the opposite of going all in.
If you're not growing, you're falling behind.
And that applies to the whole team.
So you have to foster a culture of curiosity, encourage learning, asking questions, and challenging the status quo.
That's where real innovation comes from.
And that leads to some of the other interesting ideas in the book,
Okay.
which I think will be valuable to explore.
Like this always ask why principle.
Okay.
It's so simple, but so powerful.
Yeah, it's about never settling and digging deeper to understand things right.
Exactly.
You want to foster that curiosity, not just for yourself, but for the whole team. Like, why are we doing things this way?
Is there a better way?
These are the questions that lead to improvement.
It's like he's saying complacency kills progress.
And speaking of assumptions,
That idea of measuring your success by how many people thank you for theirs,
right?
that's a real mind shift.
It really is.
It's about shifting from individual awards to collective impact.
You mentioned earlier this idea of a scalable, repeatable, and predictable playbook.
What does that even mean?
It's about having processes that can be replicated no matter who's doing them.
This brings consistency, reduces errors, and helps your team be more efficient.
So it's like a recipe for success.
Exactly.
Everyone's on the same page.
Right, and that frees up time for more creative work.
That's the idea.
And it connects with becoming an expert in your field.
Oh.
Bornancin is big on continuous learning.
Staying ahead of the curve.
Makes sense.
You can't lead if you don't know what you're talking about.
Right, your team needs to trust your expertise.
But what about experience?
Doesn't that matter?
It's funny because Bornancin says seniority doesn't mean anything.
Really?
It's not about how long you've been doing something.
It's about results, commitment, and learning,
So anyone can be an all-in leader.
no matter how long they've been in the field.
Exactly, as long as they have the right mindset.
And then there's this idea of being obsessed with maximizing your team's performance.
Yes.
It's about giving them what they need to excel.
Bornancin seems big on feedback, too.
Huge.
He even suggests surveying your team on your management.
Wow.
That takes guts.
It does, but it shows you value their input.
What about this boosting productivity by eliminating bottlenecks idea?
That's about finding anything that's slowing your team down,
Okay.
like outdated processes, bad communication, unclear roles.
And finding ways to make things run smoother.
Be proactive, not reactive.
Exactly.
And I love this one. Reward employees for ideas to improve.
Oh, that's good.
It makes everyone feel valued.
And you might get some amazing ideas you hadn't thought of.
Right. Then there's placing people where they are a perfect fit.
Yes.
So finding their strength and assigning roles accordingly,
Put them where they can thrive.
where their skills and passions match their work.
Smart.
You get the best out of people that way.
And don't forget about giving your people freedom and creative space.
Autonomy.
Everyone wants that.
Trust your team.
Empower them,
Let them try new things.
even if they fail sometimes.
Exactly.
That's a lot of trust.
So what else about building a strong team culture?
Bornancin says, be your team's biggest cheerleader.
Okay.
Praise them publicly. Recognize their accomplishments.
Celebrate wins.
All that builds morale.
It's like that give credit when you win, take blame when you lose thing.
Exactly.
It's about accountability.
And setting a good example.
He also talks about helping your team make friends at work.
Yeah,
That sounds more like social stuff than leadership.
it might seem strange.
But it's about building a community.
Okay.
People feel connected so they're more engaged and productive.
So work isn't just about tasks.
It's about feeling valued.
Right. And no matter the job,
Always acknowledge how hard people work.
a little appreciation goes a long way.
It really does.
And remember, positive reinforcement over negative.
So celebrate wins. Encourage growth.
Focus on the good stuff.
Exactly.
And finally, we have create a culture of continuous learning and development.
Invest in your team's growth.
Give them opportunities to learn and expand their skills.
Encourage them to never stop learning.
It's all about that growth mindset, right?
Right.
Always adapting to meet new challenges.
So you're creating this workplace where people feel supported.
Inspired to reach their full potential.
Okay, so we've covered a lot about all-in leadership.
From Bornancin's book.
It's definitely more than just managing tasks.
Yeah, it's like a philosophy.
A way of life.
Lead with purpose.
Empower your team.
Create that culture of growth.
It really challenges you to rethink how you lead
It does.
and to find ways for everyone to thrive.
It's a lot to take in.
But the biggest takeaway for me is
It's a journey, not a destination.
becoming an all-in leader.
Yeah.
It's about constantly learning and growing as you go.
And Bornancin's book is a great resource for that.
It is.
Full of advice and tools to help you on that journey
So if you want to learn more,
about becoming a more effective leader.
check out the full book.
You can find the link in the description.
And remember,
Even small changes can make a big difference.
that's true.
So what's one thing you can do today to start putting these principles into action?
Pick one thing.
And commit to it.
Good advice.
And as always,
If you enjoyed this deep dive,
hit that like button.
leave a comment.
Subscribe to the channel.
It helps us out a lot.
Until next time.
Lead with passion.
And go all in.